Hello physical fiends, how you doing? It's Jordan here with a nice video talking about JRPGs in 2025 on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, JRPGs I'm looking forward to next year. Let's just jump in, okay? We've got Suikoden 1 and 2 HD Remaster. This is the only one that really matters, let's face it. If you're a JRPG fan, you've already pre-ordered this bad boy. Finally, Suikoden is coming back, and if it flops, I will give up YouTube because this is an amazing duology of classic PS1 JRPGs. They can be played separately, but they do have a connected story, and it is one of the best in the business. Suikoden 1 feels basic and small, but somehow it also feels really epic. It packs such a well-paced story, full of hit after hit, and Suikoden 2 feels even more epic because it is even more epic, one of the best JRPGs of all time, and this remake is a visual upgrade, at least in Konami's opinion, but I don't care. It's not just about the visuals, the gameplay is great. Each game has you recruiting 108 stars of destiny as you fight an evil empire. Somehow, these 108 characters still come together to have a great story. It's releasing physically March next year on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, and Xbox. And yes, I know this is the third year in a row I have mentioned this release, but it's actually solid and real this time. And if you want to pre-order it or any other JRPG physical in this video, please consider using the links down below in the description and pinned comment. That massively helps support me, support this channel to keep bringing you useful physical content. Plus, VGP are a great company with good prices in cheap Canadian bucks and free worldwide shipping if you purchase something over 80 Canadian dollars, about 60 American bucks, which means Suikoden is shipping for free worldwide, and many of the other games in this list are as well. Tales of Grace's F Remaster. It's almost a yearly tradition at this point to have a nice Tales of Remaster at the start of the year. Or did I make that feeling up? It's possible, but I'm excited since it's a game I've not actually played. This is a PlayStation 3 game that the West got, but that is based on a Wii game that the West did not get, and I'm looking forward to it since it's around the same era as Symphonia, then Vesperia and Abyss, which I really enjoy all of those. So yeah, it's in the same kind of era, and it's before the series tried to get a bit more mainstream. It's got some cartoony fun and an interesting story, and the art style is classic Tales of. Hopefully they handled the port far better than Symphonia with this one. It's releasing physically in January, and North America is getting a Switch physical alongside the PlayStation 5 release, but Europe, in addition to those, is getting a PS4 physical and even Xbox. If you want those, VGP will be importing them from Europe, so you can grab those easily too if you live in North America. Xenoblade Chronicles X. I can't believe they finally decided to port this over from the Wii U. Seems like we've been waiting forever, and I hope it's not too late in the Switch's life for the fan base to truly get on board with it. Who knows though? What I do know is that it is one of the best Wii U exclusives. While it plays similarly to a Xenoblade game in battles and vibes, the whole structure of the game is very different, so don't go in expecting a properly structured and paced story. It's a bit overly open and a little bit MMO-like in that regard, but this Switch port will have more story added to make it a more meaty and satisfying experience. Enjoy the fantastic music, especially with the rapping and the battle music, which would be cringy to the insecure, but I think it's amazing. Flying around in mechs and exploring this vast world, it's great, and it's arriving physically on Nintendo Switch in March. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD Remake is following on from the recently released remake of the third game. Why would they do 1 and 2 after 3? Well, because 3 is technically the starting point of the first 3 games in the series. 3 was the genesis, and these follow on. Information is still a bit slim as I'm writing this since all the marketing was still focused on the third game, but I do wonder if they try to beef this up, because compared to the third game, it is much simpler. Or maybe they're relying on the fact it's a double pack to add value for money, I don't know. It's releasing physically, but I don't believe we have the full details about which consoles. Again, they want people to talk about 3 at this point because it's selling like bananas. I mean, what's the phrase? Hotcakes, or bananas, anything. Romancing Saga Minstrel Song International Edition is a game that's kind of already out, been out a while in fact, physically as well. But in 2025 there is a new edition, and this time it's releasing in the West, and it's called the International Edition because it has more languages alongside the English. It'll have French, Spanish, and German, which is great news. The physical release will be in both Europe and North America this time. It's not an import exclusive anymore. And there will be a Switch physical and PlayStation 5 release in North America, and Europe, in addition, will be getting a PlayStation 4 release. There are various versions too, so many in fact. I highly recommend you watch the video I did dedicated to its release, which breaks down all the different versions. I'll link it at the end of this video, if I remember. Phantom Brave: The Lost Hero is the sequel to a PlayStation 2 game. It's taken a long time. I remember owning the PS2 version back in the day and enjoying it, but not quite getting to grips with the mechanics. But it's a cult classic, and after various ports to different systems over the years, like PSP and Switch, Nippon Ichi now have the faith for a full sequel. I have to admit, I genuinely dislike this new art style. I find it very off-putting. This is a modern thing where it seems fine to let sequels look worse than the original. I guess artists are now too expensive nowadays, but maybe I'm in the minority here. It's going to be a chaotic strategy RPG with lots of meat and mechanics to explore, and it's releasing physically on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and PS5 in late January. The Switch reveal trailer looked very rough around the edges in terms of frame rate, so maybe plump for the PS5 copy if you have the option. Trails Through Daybreak 2 is going to be a busy year for the Legend of Heroes series, because Trails Through Daybreak 1 was barely released when they announced Daybreak 2, like a day afterwards. It's like they couldn't wait, and maybe that spurred more people to buy 1, knowing that 2 wasn't far away. There is a physical release on PS4, PS5 and Nintendo Switch in a standard and collector's edition, releasing on Valentine's Day next year. What is there to say about the Legend of Heroes series? They are the JRPGs of the JRPG world. You know what they say about like comedians? The comedians who aren't funny all like them because they are actually funny. Yeah, it's that kind of like JRPG series for that thing. They're keeping it based. Whatever that means, I don't know, the young kids say that. Trails in the Sky Remake. I have to be honest, I prefer the original art style. It feels more artistic compared to the average 3D shown here. I don't know why they would think this would be an improvement, but maybe they expanded the game so much the original is unfeasible. Personally, I've never played this despite me wanting to. I was hoping for a port of the original Trails in the Sky. I didn't really want a remake with a worse art style, so maybe I'll just boot up the original on my Steam Deck instead. There's no release date as of yet, nor of an announcement of a fully fledged physical release, but it would be incredibly strange if there was no physical. It's like 99.9% certain. Ys Memoire: The Oath of Felghana is another outing for Adol and his mates in this remaster of a remake of the third game in the series. That was always seen as the weird one because it was like Zelda 2 in the fact that it went from top down to a side-scrolling perspective, and then after that pretended it never existed. This is back to top down, and I've been told it's a fantastic game, another great one in the great series. Action RPGs rarely become as investing as these ones, and I'm looking forward to giving it a go in the future. I've been waiting for the Western release, hoping I could will it into existence, and I did, so you can thank me. It's releasing physically on PS5 and Nintendo Switch in January next year. Atelier Yumia. Now this is an odd one, not just because it's a new sub-series in the fantastic Atelier franchise, we need to get over Rise of being over, but because the physical release is a little bit confusing. I made a whole video about it clarifying the situation. The big issue is that Europe, there is no physical release on Nintendo Switch. Xbox, fine, Switch apparently not. Thankfully, that's where VGP come in to help this out because they will be carrying North American copies of the Nintendo Switch version for Europeans to order. This is releasing early next year and looks to be a lot more like an open world and has a bigger focus on traversal in an era where alchemy is very much taboo, at least that's the plot. If you want the confusing physical details, watch the video I made for it. Again, I will link it at the end of this video. But that's not all for Koei Tecmo, because we know how much they like to pump out the Atelier series. They've already announced the next game in the series for later in 2025, and it's called Atelier Resleriana, something like that. And it's actually based on a mobile game. Well, there was a mobile game called this, and this is a sequel to that mobile game. It's a brand new game, not a port, okay? Details are very thin on the ground right now, and I don't believe a physical has been officially announced, but of course it will get one when it does land. Keep an eye out. Hopefully the game is more than just an advertisement for people to get the mobile game and get in the addicted whales. Pokemon Legends Z2A, I don't even know how to say that, but this was a very early announced game, a sequel of sorts to Legends of Arceus, which is probably the best received recent Pokemon game, kinda open world, action orientated, a nice experimental release that I haven't had much time to play myself. Apparently this will take us back to the Kalos region, and hopefully it's as intriguing as the previous game. We don't have a release date as of yet, we just know it's 2025. And of course there will be a physical release, of course there will be. Valkyria Chronicles 4 Complete Edition is an odd one to talk about, mainly because it's a game that came out very early in the Switch's life, and has a physical copy too. But very recently, Limited Run Games surprised and confused everyone when they announced a new physical version, this time called the Complete Edition, and asked for a full fat 60 for it. This includes all the paid content, but for some reason, not the free DLC. It doesn't make sense. But I suppose it's better than nothing. If you care that much, I don't care that much. The original release is fine for me, and the game is absolutely excellent. It mixes real-time and turn-based strategy elements with a JRPG feeling. It's not purely JRPG, but it'll do for this list. Valkyria Chronicles 1 is, of course, already out digitally too on the Switch for many years now, but Limited Run did put up pre-orders for a physical copy like a few weeks ago. Like the Complete Edition, it's possible they may send them out before the end of this year, but it's unlikely, so I'm adding it to this video list. You'll probably get your copy in 2025. This is the first game in the series, a game that was primarily developed by the same team as Skies of Arcadia, which means it's got pedigree, plus it includes cameo appearances from the Fab 3. Death End Request Code Z, or Z, is the third game in the Death End series, and these are horror-themed JRPGs supposed to be pretty good from what I've heard, although I don't know much about them personally. I'm always a bit wary of Idea Factory JRPGs unless they have East Asia Soft involved in the physical release. This one does not. It's releasing physically on Switch, PS4 and PS5, but you'll have to wait till the summer of 2025 to see the physical release. Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma looks to be the HD edition of the Rune Factory series that we've been wanting. Rune Factory 5 arrived like lukewarm milk. Not bad, just not as special as the other games in the series. The transition to a proper mainline release on a HD console was not smooth, but this looks quite epic actually, mixing farming with the action RPG-ness, now with an exotic Asian theme going on, and I do have high hopes for this. It's releasing only on Nintendo Switch in a standard edition, as well as a collector's edition, and is releasing in March next year, unless the 31st is a placeholder. That seems very possible. Cosmic Fantasy Collection 2 is probably going to be getting a Western physical release next year. Limited Run announced they would be doing a part 2, but at the time of writing this, they haven't taken pre-orders yet, but I'm sure it'll happen sooner rather than later, with them shipping next year. This will be the first time the games have been available in English, and it will have the final 3 games in the series, although the final 2 games are more like one game split into 2. This is when the series started getting good from what I've read. These have the gimmicks of having animated cutscenes in an era when that wasn't so popular. I want the first collection, but they're kind of expensive and not readily available, at least not for my budget. Wizardry, the 5 Ordeals, technically not a JRPG since the series is a Western franchise, but they love them in Japan, and there have been plenty of Japanese developed spin-off titles. There is no Western physical announcement as of yet, but there is a Japanese physical release announced for January with English, but there is plenty of time for a Western one to be announced, and I think it will be likely. I think Limited Run will probably do this in North America and Clear River Games in Europe. The Lunar Collection. Now this is a bit of speculation because details are completely unknown at this point, but if the Lunar Collection does not get a physical release, I will make the moon explode. But I think it's safe because the company have worked with Limited Run Games before with the Grandia Double Pack, and that was highly successful, and this will have a similar sort of impact. Personally, I'm hoping for a retail release or at least an English Asian option so I don't have to give my money to Limited Run with their unnecessary rarity. This package will contain 2 games in the Lunar series. It's a series I've looked on from afar, but I found it very confusing about which release is which, like which is the best one to play, and I don't think there's a definitive answer about which one to play because they each have their pros and cons. Hopefully this is the complete perfect package so I can jump in and try. And there we have it, Physical Fiends, essential physical JRPGs coming in 2025. Which ones are you the most excited about? I would love to know your thoughts. As always, if you want to pre-order any of these that are available for pre-order, I would greatly appreciate it if you use the links down below in the description and pinned comment. That massively helps support me, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Take care.